With bank regulation, the government establishes a set of rules. These rules are designed to reduce the risk of bank failure or give protection to investors or customers. Supervision is where the rubber hits the road. Supervisors make sure that the rules are being followed. If you break the rules, there have to be consequences. And then there are exams and stress tests. This allows supervisors to monitor the safety and soundness of our banks. In this session, we will run through how the supervisory process works. The first question is, who does the supervision? This is not a trick question. It is the same set of institutions that writes the rules. So the FDIC, the Fed, the OCC, and the state authorities will be responsible for supervising banks. These institutions implement the rules. What happens when banks break them? Well, in this case, regulators have the authority to demand certain actions and then penalize non-compliers. Usually, the regulator will ask a bank to fix a deficient procedure or accomplish something like raise equity. If the bank fails to comply, then there is a penalty. This can involve banning certain individuals from banking, banning certain M&A activities, banning dividend payouts, or even fines. Here is an example of an action taken by the Fed. This is a press release from 2013. It concerns the famous London whale case. In this case, a trader made enormous losses on a position that was not carefully monitored by the bank. Here we have the Fed identifying deficiencies in risk management at the bank, asking the bank to take prompt actions to correct these deficiencies, and levying a $200 million fine along the way. Add that to the fines charged by UK banking regulators, and we arrive at about a $1 billion fine. This punishment was not just for the sake of it. The London whale lost $6 billion and put the bank at risk. If JP Morgan had the right procedures in place, then perhaps this could have been avoided. Here we have the fines from 2008 until 2015. Fines by bank and fines by the type of infraction. Here's our London whale down here. By far the biggest fines relate to missold US mortgages and related securities. We can see that these fines add up. If a bank breaks the rules, then there will be consequences. The hope is that this punishment will encourage banks to comply with the rules and adopt suitable risk management practices. There was a bit of a jump there from writing rules to enforcement actions. In between these two steps, there is an oversight process. This is when supervisors take a closer look at the operational side of a bank. Formal bank examinations are a key part of this process. All banks have to do them. They have an off-site component. Banks must file quarterly financial reports with regulators. Supervisors analyze these financial reports to find banks that have potential weaknesses. Exams also have an on-site component. This involves an examiner visiting the bank at least once a year. Sometimes examiners show up unannounced, or in the case of mega banks, examiners are on-site all year round. But in every case, examiners will do a deep dive into the bank's business and to understand its condition and its performance. The outcome of the examination process is something called a CAMELS score. This score will determine whether the bank passes or fails the exam. Banks are evaluated along 6 critical dimensions. Capital adequacy. This is the bank's loss-bearing capacity. Asset quality. Are assets defaulting or in good shape? Management. Is this a well-run bank that is in compliance with the law and regulations? Earnings. Are the bank's investments delivering income? Liquidity. What are the sources of liquidity risk at the bank? Does the bank have sufficient cash on hand? And sensitivity to market risk. The bank receives a score for each of these criteria. An overall score is given. If the bank fails the test, then it ends up on the problem bank list. This is the naughty list for banks. Problem banks are not publicly named and shamed, but regulators do privately inform banks that they have failed the test. These banks will be subject to restrictions until they address the regulator's specific concerns. Here is the problem bank list from 2008 to 2021. It shows the number of problem banks and their total assets under management. This is highly cyclical. When there is a recession, deficiencies become exposed.